Hello everyone, welcome back to the Artless Dialogue. I'm Saud, and with me is Ash Mohammed. Hi Ash, how are you doing?
Hi, Saud. How's it going? Hello, listeners. You can see us,
Yeah,
which is exciting.
that's new and quite nerve-wracking for me as well. We're trying something new this time.
Yeah, it means I can't wear my pajamas for our podcast, Saud.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's why I'm wearing this shirt. So just to catch everyone up, we've been doing the Artless Dialogue for about a year now. We've had 2 seasons. They were primarily audio podcasts, and you found them on Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, and we did episodes on career development and business topics such as cryptocurrency or recessions and interviewing well and how to develop your career, managing upwards and so forth. We're aiming to continue the same themes to our video format, which will primarily be on YouTube. And so we're going to be talking about those topics. And Ash, anything to add?
Yeah, no, I'll just say, obviously the content's still available. So if you fancy listening to some of our old podcasts, you can find them where you can find podcasts. I think it's quite interesting how we've now got lots and lots of listeners. We can say we've got listeners in the thousands. So that's quite amazing. And yeah, it seems like an actual evolution to go from audio now to video. And I think it's probably delving into a bit more detail on some of the topics we've covered previously. Yeah, before giving it away, we've kind of changed up the format a little bit. So as always, welcome feedback. If you prefer listening to me on audio than video, that includes, then yeah, if it's a face for radio, you can let me know as well. But no, exciting.
Perfect. So let's get into it then.
Yeah.
So we're going to be changing the format up a bit. We're going to have 2 segments to the episode. First segment is going to be interesting business news topics that me or Ash thought of, discovered, came across over the past week. And the second topic, so we're going to talk about that. And we don't know what we're going to be talking about, so it's very free.
So what's new there, Saud?
Yeah.
What's new there? We don't know
what's new there. That's true. And the second part is going to be about questions that we've received from people regarding career and personal development, and we're going to try to answer those in the best way possible. Those will be, of course, a little prepared because we know those questions in advance. I think that's it, right?
Yeah, no, and I think it's quite interesting talking about what's been going on in the week of kind of finance and business, because it's a kind of conversation I have with lots of colleagues and peers across the industry. And I always think there's so much in there that if we could, let somebody else listen into that conversation, I'd hope they found it kind of equally interesting. So we're doing that. So we're going to have a little chat about what's been going on, and then, share our thoughts on it. And hopefully it's of interest to people listening. But as always, welcome thoughts. So what have you picked up on this week, Saud, that's been going on?
Okay, so this week I came across this interesting startup that's done something really exciting. So I'll tell you the story. The story starts with a person driving his electric scooter to work. The commute was a mile long, so that wasn't a long walk or a long drive or anything. And he unfortunately got into an accident on his electric scooter. And he thought, my commute is quite short, so why don't I walk? Instead of using devices and technology and these like electric scooters and mobility devices, why don't I make walking more efficient? So he started working on that. Are you there? Do you have something in mind?
Okay. No. I'm listening to the story. Yeah. It sounds good so far.
Yep. So he got together with a group of robotics engineers, sneaker designers, and data analysts, and they've been working on the project for 5-6 years, and they've had, I think it was 19 prototypes, and finally their product is ready to pre-order, and I think it's quite exciting. If you look right here, screen sharing live. That's fun. Okay, so can you see the screen, everyone? Oh, Ash.
Yeah.
So this is pretty much what the team is.
Yeah.
And and it's basically a device you attach beneath your shoe,
Right.
and it helps you walk faster. If you look at this video, can you see this video over here?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, Moonwalkers. Wow.
Yeah,
So
they're
it's got
called
kind of wheels
Moonwalkers. Yeah.
and combination of wheels and walking.
Yeah, pretty much. So you're basically
Wow.
walking, and they say you can increase your speed by up to
Okay,
2.5 times.
Wow, that's pretty
And
cool.
you just strap them at the bottom of your shoes.
Yep.
They last for 6 miles, and you can
Yep.
charge them in 90 minutes.
Wow.
The price tag is a little,
Yeah, I was going to say. I thought there was I thought there was a point there, but no, there isn't.
Yeah, no points over there. This is what it looks like, and they've tested it over gravel,
Yeah.
over cobbled streets, and if you look over here carefully, you see that the wheels, they've got 8 wheels at the bottom, and they overlap each other.
Yeah.
To make sure that whatever you step on, it doesn't break the flow of your walking or moonwalking.
Yeah.
So I think that's a quite like, I came across, then I thought that could change how you actually travel to work.
Yeah.
And how you
it's one of these things, isn't it? Which is, when you get these kind of inventions, they either take, and that's you just shared with us the next thing, and in 10 years' time, we're all going to have these moonwalkers, or it's such a great idea, but it never takes off. And it's, it's like the CV. Remember this? There's the famous first electric vehicle that came about, and they said it was a one-person electric vehicle, and it was 20 years ahead of everyone, and just nobody was interested in it.
I think I remember that small, very small one-person vehicle, right?
Yeah, it was like a little capsule, and it basically kind of was electric charging and all the rest of it, and that was supposed to take off. And then you had Segways, and then Segways came along, and everyone said, in the future we'll be just on Segways, and there'll be no cars. And again, Segways are just a bit of a gimmick.
Yeah.
Whereas, e-scooters have taken off, and you see them in lots of major cities. So it'll be interesting if that takes off, or it's just one of these things.
That's true. I think the big point about it is it's a small product.
Yeah.
It can fit into your backpack quite easily.
Yeah.
And like with a scooter, you need a place to store it after you use it.
Yeah.
With those, I don't know, I think they're called Segways, the thing that you balance on, and it's got 2 wheels on the side.
Yeah.
You need to have it's quite a big product. I think something like this, like that's compact, I can utilize every day, make a commute shorter. Obviously cheaper than a public electric scooter. So I think that would be. So I got really excited when I saw the product. I thought it was quite interesting.
There's an interesting thing when it's like new products about whether they integrate or whether they kind of become mass market. And I forgot what I was reading years ago. It's called Barriers to Mass Market.
Yeah.
And one of them is cost, which is an obvious one.
Over here, $1,500.
Is it an impulse buy? So, £1,400 or dollars rather isn't an impulse buy. So until the cost comes down, that's going to become a barrier. And the other one was just your point about mobility, which is can I pick it up and put it somewhere, or is it painful to move around? And it sounds like you just stick in a backpack. Whereas an e-scooter, you can't carry it around. They're quite heavy and they're quite cumbersome. And then the other one is maintenance, which is, do I need infrastructure? Do I need to change my lifestyle? Do I need to do enhancements to my house suddenly for this device? And if the answer is yes to any of those three, then chances are you're going to fail to hit the mass market. So at the moment, it sounds like money's a barrier, but I guess if you start producing lots and lots of these, then the cost will come down. Is that interesting? Oh, that's quite an interesting thing. Yeah, excited. I'm going to go see if I can order a pair.
I'm not going to order one right now for $300. I'm going to wait a couple of years. I'm going to use traditional walking till then. Yeah,
I wonder where that sits in the insurance space. If you got one and you fell over, because it's obviously e-scooter insurance is now a thing. But I don't know what that counts as. Is it the same as roller skates, which is you're powering them? So, or is it the same as a e-scooter, which is it's powered movement?
So it's a mixture of the two. It's
Yeah.
it's not like roller skates.
Yeah. No,
The
I meant
wheels,
more from an insurance perspective because roller
yeah.
skates are self-powered, so that's kind of you're at fault if you decide to crash into a wall. Whereas an e-scooter, if it was faulty and you had an accident or you hit a car or something, or you got hurt, then slightly different. Whereas
It'll
this
be
is kind
more
of
along the lines of an e-scooter, I think, because the
yeah,
wheels are powered by electric
yeah,
motors. Yeah, so
yeah,
I think it falls in that range. So yeah, insurance is something, but they
yeah,
haven't come out yet. They're only pre-order.
yeah.
So let's see what happens. I'll be keeping an eye out for them. Oh yeah, by
Indeed,
the way,
yeah.
the product's name is Moonwalker, and the startup was Shift Robotics. So I think
Brilliant. What a cool
should
name,
mention
though.
that towards the end.
Yeah. What a cool name, though.
Yeah,
It's great when you get a good brand name, though, isn't it? Moonwalker. It's like, what a genius name to get.
definitely.
Uh, Everyone knows what that is.
Yeah,
Yeah. Cool. That's a good one. Mine's kind of less cool, but it was more to do with stuff we've talked about before, which is crypto and digital currencies.
yeah,
And it's quite interesting that the UK government has launched a paper into a digital pound. So essentially, what they're saying is, there is going to come a point where we're going to need a digital pound,
yeah,
and how do we ensure we develop it in a way that one protects the currency, two allows customers to use it as they would do cryptocurrency. How do you protect it, back it, all that stuff. But it's quite interesting when a government as risk averse as ours is when it comes to cryptocurrency is now investing real time and energy into a digital currency, because it's kind of historically, I guess people thought cryptocurrency will come and go, and it'll be a bubble that'll burst and nobody will be interested, it won't be sustainable. But this kind of suggests it's here to stay. And they kind of need to get on the bandwagon, otherwise they're at risk of falling behind. So yeah, I thought that was quite interesting that they're taking it very seriously.
yeah. I think it is. There are a lot of countries all over the world working on central bank digital currencies or CBDCs. And they pose certain benefits and there's challenges as well. Benefit being primarily that it's from the central bank, so it will be in some way controlled. There won't be risks of fraud or scams from the person who makes those tokens, those currencies, as we've seen quite recently. And there's the element of trust, I believe, if the government's behind it. But then again, there's some a lot of people have been talking about CBDCs and how they're against the true vision behind cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
So cryptocurrencies, like a lot of the fan base or all of the users, like the fact that it's decentralized. There's no one controlling it, but that brings its own risks as well. So I think it's quite a balance, and I think it depends on how the governments will implement it, the policies revolving around CBDCs, and the amount of privacy and control that would be shared.
Yeah.
I think it's
quite interesting. You use the term kind of fan base there, Saud, because it's not often you get people who are kind of like fans of a currency, but it has got it's the right word to use, because it's kind of got rock star appeal a little bit. It's a bit like the punk rock of its era, where people see it as a rebellious thing to do, where we're going against governments and we're going against establishment by introducing cryptocurrency. So there's an element of there's a movement type element to it rather than purely functional. It's a cryptocurrency, because it's kind of almost seen as taking power back for the individual. And so there is an emotive lens to cryptocurrency, and people feel passionate about it, which is a strange thing to say when people go, I'm very passionate about a currency, and you're like, yeah, you should get a hobby. But people are I
think so as well. But the thing that I feel that like UK central banks Bank of England's decision is that if it's a currency that is digital currency and from the central bank, from the government itself, I think one big advantage is that in terms of stability, it would be like a stable coin. It would be pegged with the pound. So the fluctuations and the variability that you come across with Bitcoin or Ethereum or something, that it just drops in a day and then it rises,
Yes.
and it's
Yes.
unpredictable and it's very risky. I think that
Yeah.
those risk factors would reduce a lot. And
Yes.
practical applications in terms of immediate money transfers and payment and transparency in
Yeah.
terms of from money laundering, fraud, security perspective. I think
Yeah.
a central bank digital currency would help that a lot.
Yes. Oh, yeah. You certainly you can see kind of, you're right, benefits all over the place. The tracking of it, and you're quite right. One of the biggest kind of challenges with cryptocurrencies and is the fact it's not backed by a government, and stability becomes an issue. And all it takes is a famous person on Twitter to tweet something negative, and price just drops. Whereas you're right. One of the statements they made is it'll be interchangeable with cash on a direct for direct basis. So effectively, they're kind of saying it's exactly like the pound. So it's not a thing, a digital pound, i.e. it's the pound. It's just available as a digital currency. So they're kind of almost trying to change how people think about currency and just saying, well, it's just another channel now. Because it's interesting because cash is we still talk about cash, even though in most countries you are using very little cash. All your transactions are digital anyway. And so why would you not have a digital currency? It just makes logical sense. So it's almost like we've got a digital architecture for payments and transfer of money, but we're still using an archaic method of cash, physical cash, moving around between banks, and banks doing ledger comparisons and reconciliations. It's just unnecessary complication for complication's sake. So yeah,
I think that makes me think of something. So you work at a bank, right? Do you think that would change a lot of your work if that currency is implemented successfully? Like you'd have to, banks would have to, financial institutions would have to build crypto blockchain expertise quite quickly, and then know how to store that form of money and how to. I think that would change a lot of banking operations and risk management. And do you have a view on that? Or is it too early days?
I think it's definitely. I would say maybe it's not too early because it's been around for a while. It's not new anymore. But I think it's kind of like the evolution of banking. If we looked 10, 15 years ago, when the internet was barely used, maybe slightly back longer. I forget how old I am. But we didn't have mobile devices 20 years ago to the extent we do now. And then suddenly digital came along, and everyone was panicking that, oh my goodness, how are we going to cope? Suddenly there's going to be fraud everywhere. But actually, fraud controls got better. And then we had the evolution of on payments everywhere in journeys, and we've got payment providers. So I think there's always an evolution in banking and finance, and I think this just is another evolution that banks and other organizations just need to make sure they're up to speed on. And I think you touched on it, capability is a key one. It's still a bit of a dark art, is blockchain and crypto and all of that stuff that kind of sits underneath it. There are people who are very familiar with it, but it's a small percentage of the population. Most people have no idea how it works and probably don't want to know. But because of that, it might worry them. Whereas even now, it's amazing when you see some of the consumer surveys out there, people still feel safe that there are physical banks there.
Yeah.
Because they perceive their money as a pile of cash in a bank vault somewhere. And it's funny because it's backed quite a lot by, Hollywood. Whenever you see an Ocean's 11 movie, they don't steal digital currency. They go in and physically take a pallet full of money, and it's kind of going. Surely it would have been easier for you just to break into the firewall and steal the money than the convoluted journey you go along to steal a pallet full of money. So it's funny how we still see the physical element of it, and we struggle with some of the conceptual stuff. So I think that's always a cultural change that's difficult to kind of get people's head around. But yeah, I think the Bank of England paper talked about 2030 is when it would be available for consumers to access, which doesn't seem that long to go. It's 2023 now, so 7 years, which is, nothing in the scheme of this, where you might be able to get a digital pound and not have physical cash, but some kind of, something which suggests you've got currency on your phone, which tells you that you've got X amount of pounds in digital currency, which would be quite interesting. How it would work, how would exchange rates work suddenly? Is it the same exchange rate, or do you get a separate exchange rate for a digital currency?
That's true. Didn't think that far. Yeah.
Yeah,
that
it's all kind of
complicated stuff.
Yeah, complicated stuff. And then you suddenly go, do you get US currency? And then does that mean you could just buy US currency digital and stick it on your phone and never have to go to exchange rate organizations?
Yeah.
Because you just never need to give the US dollars back. It's just digital currency sitting on your phone. So yeah, there's tons of implications to it. Where if it's taken en masse, then lots of things would have to change, I assume.
That's true. Yeah, quite an innovative idea by the bank that would change how we use money, how we think of money.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, figure out what other governments are also doing. So I'll be looking into that.
Yeah.
Quite interesting topic.
Yeah, and I think it was just to give people the credit, it was Finextra that the article's from. So if you read Finextra, it's quite a useful sort of online brochure, and they do lots of cool little stories like that. So we'll give them their due.
Perfect. Sounds good. Okay, so I think that was a good segment 1 finished to our season 3. First time we tried that. And now moving on to segment 2, where we receive questions from our listeners, or we sometimes have to chase up for questions, and we try our best to. Yeah, sorry, you were about to.
No, I was going to say on that note, if you've got questions, either just kind of post comments on the bottom of this video, or get in touch.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. And we'll try to cover them in our next episode next week, hopefully. Okay, so first question we got is, how do I go about starting my research or preparing for an interview? Ash, you want to start with this?
Yeah, I would say this is probably the most common question I ever get. Do you know that? Which is applying for jobs, prepping for interviews, and doing the interview. And I think I'm not surprised it is, because it's kind of the most critical thing. And if you think about most roles these days, especially into the banking space, I mean, you're talking 100 to 1, if not sometimes larger odds for in terms of application versus then getting an interview and then being interviewed and then getting the job. And if you're on a grad program, the odds are even greater. And then you're going through assessment centers and all sorts of stuff. So there's plenty to kind of prepare for, because sometimes I think there's a view that it's about opportunity and it's about luck and et cetera, but actually there's a big chunk of it you can get yourself ready for. And the first one is the easy one, right? Which is most of the questions you're going to get asked in an interview, before they even get to the kind of structured questions, they're going to want to know why you applied for the job. And we call it, when I've done interviews before, it's called, we call it motivational fit. Right. So we're kind of saying, right, so why is Saud interested in this job? And if we go, right, Saud, you've applied for this job, it's in X company, what makes you excited about this role in this organization? And you sit there going, well, I don't know really much about, Coca-Cola. I don't know if they've made many things before, and you haven't done any research. So step 1 is an easy one, right? Do your research about the organization. Yep. Think about what the organization goals are. What is it trying to achieve? Would you be able to talk to your friend, partner, family about that organization with a little bit of confidence in terms of explaining to them what it does, why it does it? And if you can, then you've got that bit nailed, because that will definitely come up. And then the other bit is the role. And the next question you get is, right, why have you applied for this role? Again, do the research. If you've applied for, an analyst type role, right? What do you know about these types of roles? Do you know anyone in the organization? Do you know anyone in your network? Is there someone you can get in touch with on LinkedIn? Find out a bit more about the role rather than just reading the role profile and applying just based on the role profile. Because again, it's such a differentiator between a person who's just applied for lots of jobs to a person who's genuinely interested in this role. And it might not seem obvious because, as with all of us, when we're starting to apply for jobs, you tend to apply for lots of different roles and because you want to spread your opportunities. But it's very obvious when someone who's just done I've just done a bit of general research versus someone who's genuinely researched that role. And it's such a distinguishing kind of point that you will remember those applicants. And even when you get into the kind of structured questions, you kind of feel a little bit like, right, I'm egging this person on because they've clearly cared enough about this job to go and do some research. So they're two critical points.
Yeah, I think on that last point, especially on both of those points, in fact, I think there are three types of people that I've come across or known or been myself at different points in time who give interviews. The one is that they think what I've learned in my previous job is enough to me to go into an interview. That is my preparation, so I don't need to do much. That's one type of interviewee. The second type is who, as you said, does some general research, looks at the company's vision, mission, reads the job description, knows what the job description is, and so forth. Yeah. And then the advice that you were giving was for the third person who does specific research. Like they would actually look up what similar projects were done in similar roles. They'd reach out to people in similar roles or in that team and understand what actually goes on day to day. And that's something that I would really try to advocate because when you're not in that role, you can never really know what actually goes on day to day in that person's life. Because, and other than that, every team has a different culture, different way of working. Like a finance analyst at one firm could just be an accountant who makes budgets. And a finance analyst at another firm could be one who forecasts future growth and makes projections. So those are very different job roles. So, of course, the job description would give some of that detail. But talking to someone in that position, in that team would help a lot more. And that knowledge, experience, and the effort you made would show in the interview. And I think that that creates a big difference.
I couldn't agree more, Saud. I think there's an element of like, your own time. And that was a brilliant example about the finance analyst because you've also then got business analyst. And a business analyst means 100 different things to 100 different people. A data analyst, what's a data analyst? And if you're looking for a role, then, your time is precious, just like the person interviewing you, their time is precious. So what you don't want to be doing is doing lots of interview prep, i.e. I've prepped all my questions. I've spent so much time prepping my questions, but the really important bit I haven't prepped for is why am I applying for this organization? What am I doing in this organization? And so you might find yourself going for an interview. I personally have been both ends of it where I've applied for jobs just because I've seen the job title and thought, right, that's in that space. I know that stuff. And then 10 minutes into the interview, I've realized, all right, this is not what I want. And you can't kind of pull the cord in an interview. You can't just suddenly go, right, oops, I made a mistake. This isn't for me. And the flip side is I've interviewed people who've applied for a job and then 5-10 minutes in, you've realized that they have little experience, little knowledge, don't even really understand what the job is about, but they've applied for it. And then again, you're having to now interview them. So, but you can't suddenly go, sorry, I'm going to have to stop this interview because you clearly don't understand this job. And people give that, 2% of the time, and they give 98% of the time to their answers, thinking, I've got really great answers, all the rest of it. But it's kind of like going, well, you've closed your eyes and shot, your arrow without even understanding what the role is. Now, imagine you understood the role. How more specific would your stars, your answers be if you understood the role? to your example, if you go, right, well, this is a financial analyst, we're looking for someone really who can kind of, analyze data. We know someone who's going to work specifically in the insurance industry. We know someone who's got da-da-da-da. Right, you can now cater your answers so much more around that when the interview's now listening, you're dropping in keywords, which not only just suggests that that person's got the technical knowledge, but they also understand how your organization works. They understand your industry. They understand, some of your challenges. And suddenly, what becomes a good interview, suddenly, you're smashing it out of the park and people are offering you the job before you've even left the room. So yeah, it's hugely important. But it's a step a lot of people do skip, I find, which is quite interesting because I find lots of people just scatter CVs and it's all about volume rather than value.
I've noticed that as well. Amongst friends. Okay. I think that covers up how to prep for an interview pretty well. Okay, moving on to the second question that we received. This one is from a student who's in university, third year of university out of 4 years. And the question is, what can you do in university to build skills that would set you apart from everyone else who's there? So
I think lots, but go on, Saud, you got some thoughts, go for it. You've been through this. You've been through this more recently than I have, anyway. That's for sure. My memory is lazy on this stuff.
Okay. So I'll give an example of myself. What I did in university was, so I thought of the exact same question: what can I do to separate myself from everyone else? And the answer for me was, do what they're not doing. Do something different. Because if there's 100 students applying for a job and 95 of them say that we were in the management, in a management position of a university club or university society. That's 90% of everyone who's applying. It'll be very hard for you to differentiate yourself. If you go and say, I actually took a part-time bookkeeping job at a local supermarket or a local corner shop, it's very different and it sets you apart. Even though one may seem more exciting or more fun than the other, but one gives you real world experience and one gives you skills and lessons that the other 95% don't have. So I think it's a perspective of looking at things. What activities can I do where I will learn, and what everyone else is not doing? So I've got some examples. One is regarding volunteering. So what I did myself was it was a skill-based volunteering opportunity. Skill-based volunteering platform where you can sign up and you can say, okay, I know how to do social media marketing. I know how to make YouTube videos. I know how to design logos and stuff. And then there are non-profit organizations and charities who say, okay, we need someone who can help us make a social media marketing strategy. Nowadays, Nowadays, every 14-year-old knows how to market, how to make TikTok videos, how to make YouTube videos, how to, communicate well on social media. So I think that's a skill that a lot of universities can utilize. Once that nonprofit or charity and you align in what skills you want and what they need, they offer you an opportunity and you can work with them on projects ranging from 1 to 2 weeks to 3 to 6 months. Now that is not paid, but it's real world experience where you're adding value, and that's something that I didn't see a lot of my colleagues doing at that time. So I think that's one, like finding opportunities where you can actually do real world work instead of working in the controlled environment of university. That I think creates a big difference.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So I think there's some really good examples there, and I think it's thinking laterally, and which is kind of what you're saying there, Saud. And I think students assume that, and the word management you use there, I need management experience because I want to be a manager in the future, or I want to go and progress my career. And I think management is the right answer. And I'm using that word consciously a lot because I find it then played back to me in graduate assessment centers or interviews or LinkedIn messages and stuff. And I think that's a kind of a key word, that's what they need. But actually, when you're coming into, your beginning of your career, technical skills, right? The technical skills you can learn. You know, if you've been to university and you've got a degree, it suggests you know how to learn and you know how to study and you can absorb information and play it back, right? So you can then go into an organization and do that. But the thing that's missing, and you know, you touched on it in the real world examples, is what are the soft skills, right? So you know, what's your skills in communicating? Are you an effective communicator? Now, if all you've done is I've spent my time talking to students, or I've influenced lots of students, right? You've influenced lots of people like you in a similar position to you who all speak the same sort of language and communication style like you. So you're not evidencing something that's interesting or amazing. Different story is I had one on the assessment center I did a while back that really kind of stuck in my head. And it's something kind of a word used there, management, and I find that seems to be the focus of a lot of kind of university students, which is evidencing management and the use of that word and you know, I've done this management, I've done that management, and actually what they're really evidencing is they've worked with other students in student committees, they've worked with other students in a student union, or I've been the director of the student club or this club. But you're not actually evidencing any additional soft skills. All you're kind of telling us is you're a good organizer, which is great, but it doesn't teach you other necessary skills because you're communicating with people who are similar to you, use the same kind of communication style, have the same context, etc., etc. So your example about kind of, you know, branching out and doing something different. And one that kind of always sticks in my mind was someone who was, and she was on the board of a charity, and she was, you know, I think early 20s, and she joined the board, and she was kind of, she'd gone for it because she was really passionate about the charity. It wasn't a particularly big charity, but her example was brilliant because she was talking about the people that were on the board were of different age groups. She was talking about actually how she overcame the challenge of joining a board, and everyone thought, she's young and doesn't know what she's talking about. And she had to influence these senior stakeholders. She had to build credibility with them because they were kind of almost initially dismissing her thoughts and opinions because she was new and young. And then so her example was how she brought them round. And how she, you know, used this communication, used the fact that she had a strong work ethic, came up with lots of good ideas, and then helped execute them. And you go, wow, right? You didn't get a special treatment. You didn't need to go in a special school to do that. You didn't need anything apart from just the fact that you've gone and applied for a local charity, and that example, right, stood out like such a shining star in comparison to everyone else.
Of course.
And then when you're listening to that, you're going, well, obviously you've built some credibility because you've been at that charity for now 14 months, right? And if you had a complete shambles in it, the board would have released you many, many, many moons ago. Yeah. You know, your answers, you know, if you worked in any organization, you could relate to that. Then you go, you know, building credibility is, you know, a key pillar of any kind of, you know, organization, because unless you've built credibility and trust with someone, you can't influence them. So actually, that's a brilliant soft skill you've just learned now at university. So when you get to an organization, you've got a head start compared to somebody else. Yes. You know, communicating with impact. You know, we've talked about it on our podcast previously. It's a really difficult skill. You know, there's people who've been in their careers for 15, 20 years who still haven't nailed it. But that's a brilliant place to do it because it's kind of like swimming in a lake versus swimming in a shallow pool. You know, if you swim in a shallow pool, right, you know there's walls, you know how deep the pool is, you feel safe, and so you're not going to really learn beyond being able to swim the length of the pool, and you're not going to feel the nervousness of fear. Now, you swim in a lake where the depth is deep, you know, and there's no walls. And that's kind of when you're out there in the world and you're on board and you might have all sorts of different people on that board who might not follow the rules, who might be quite challenging to you, who might not follow corporate language or be polite to you or all the fun stuff that goes on. Now, if you learn your skills there, wow, you know, that stands out. So I think there's definitely things you can do at university that make you stand out. But not only is it about presenting yourself, you know, better, different than others, but it's the skills you gain from doing that. And you notice that so much when they then get into organizations. They find the transition so much easier than people who've spent their life or most experiences with other students.
Yeah.
And then you suddenly get into an organization where, because students all understand the rules. So you're kind of playing the game with people who understand the rules. And then you get into an organization and there's different rules. And then you struggle with that transition. So I think that for me is a big one.
No, I think that's a really good point, because they can hit the ground running. They know how organizations, how systems work, how you talk to someone higher up the hierarchy than you, and how you fit in and adjust and learn and then operate efficiently really quickly. I think I think that's a very valid point. I think that's a good answer to the question, how to build skills at university that set you apart.
Exactly. And just as final little build on that, Saud, if I may, but it's you've also got an opportunity to build a network, because chances are on that board there's other people who are senior people in their organizations. There might be entrepreneurs. There might be all sorts of different people who are retired, who are X or Y. Right, you've just got a great opportunity now to build a network with them. You might even find a mentoring opportunity where you go, actually, that was my second, third board. Could I get some feedback, please? And I remember when I joined the board of Move On 5 years ago, and there's various people on there, but one of the guys who was an ex-board member was a director in a bank somewhere, senior guy. And I thought that was a great opportunity to go have a chat and talk about something that we both had similar to. So it helped in building a network in the banking space, but actually I got some really good feedback from a very senior stakeholder when at the time, I was junior in my bank, that would never have had that opportunity for someone to observe me and go, actually, you communicated that really well, that I'm not sure. Here's a useful tip for next time. Yeah. So it's a really great opportunity to kind of, learn as well. So I would say I would definitely encourage that.
Yeah, because networking itself can seem quite hard and scary. Yeah. But if you're working with someone, then that's it becomes easier.
Definitely. And ultimately you're helping people as well. You're volunteering.
True.
So there's that, which is, whatever organization you're involved in, chances are, you're smart, you're switched on, you've got high energy. There'll be someone somewhere who's getting the benefit of that. So why not?
Yeah. That's true. That's true. Perfect. I think that wraps up episode 1, season 3, the Artless Dialogue. If you enjoyed the podcast, liked what we talk about, please like the YouTube video, subscribe to our channel, new calls to action this time. And please share it with your friends and comment down below what you liked, how you can improve, any questions you have, any topics you want us to cover. And I think that's it. See you next week.
Yeah, brilliant. You know what? It's taken me 47 years to be able to say that, like and subscribe, because having a 10-year-old and watch YouTube and go, right, I can finally say that. So let's hope we get people liking and subscribing. But that was really good fun. And yeah, thanks everyone. Talk soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.